Hey there, if you found this video, you're likely an online coach or creative and you've been hearing a lot about automation. You're looking to automate your business, just don't know where to start, what to automate first, and it's just so much, especially as you are continuing to post your content, generate leads, have sales calls, and manage your clients all at the same time. So we basically created this video to just help you really kind of put things into perspective as to what should be automated first and how you can start slowly integrating automation into your business to start freeing your time up so you can continue to coach, make the impact that you want without spending so much time on the manual processes of your business. Now, no matter where you are in the stage of your business, I've seen coaches and I've even been a coach myself. For those that don't know me, my name is Dev. I spent the last 3 years running an online coaching business, which I co-founded, and we generated over 7 figures in the online space. So for me, I'm very familiar with the online coaching space. I'm very familiar with every process that comes with it. And for me, I've also seen and personally helped coaches get from 0 to 10 to even $50,000 a month in their business. Now you'd be surprised. Some people can actually get to $10,000 to $50,000 running everything manually within their business, but they just don't have time off, right? They just have no time off. If they take a day off, then their business stops, they can't process payments, and usually a lot of fires happen, unfortunately, when you are doing everything manually within your business. So if that's you, you're realizing that a lot of your business is manual, you realize you can't really take time off of your business without it completely stopping and shutting down for the day, and you want to at least start the process so that way it can continue running even without your main involvement, then today we're going to really look at the different areas that you can and should automate. And then we're going to dive deeper into what you personally should automate first, depending on the stage of your business. Now, as I mentioned, you can automate and grow and scale at any point in your online coaching business. Now, the most important thing to remember is that there are 5 things that every successful online coach has. The first thing is lead generation. The next thing is your appointment setting or your ability to have calls on your calendar if that's the process that you're using. The next thing is your sales calls. The next thing is your content creation. And the last thing is your client success. So of those 5 things, if you really categorize all the time, all the energy that you're putting towards your business, you really want to understand those 5 areas. So lead generation, appointment setting, sales, content creation, and client success. Where are you putting the most time? Are you spending more time doing onboarding calls and managing your time with your clients? Are you spending a lot of time doing sales calls? Are you spending a lot of time doing free events or paid events, things like that? Or is it on managing and posting your content? Based on where you are currently in your online business, again, that can look different for everyone. That's where you want to start with your automations. There isn't a one size fits all. There could be people that are making 10K a month that are spending all of their time managing their clients, and they're just getting clients because of how good they are with their clients that they just continue to refer people. There may be other people that spend all of their time doing content creation, and the content creation is really what is driving in traffic and clients, right? So while they're spending all their time there, other things like tracking or even your clients, unfortunately, sometimes we've definitely seen that in the past, where they start to maybe fall apart. We don't have to spend as much time as we want to help them out. So the biggest thing is you really want to assess where you're spending the most time. So if you look at all the tasks that you do on a day-to-day, try to break them up into each one of those 5 categories, and then you want to start with that first. So once you understand which of the 5 categories you're spending the most time, let's talk briefly on what automating that process would look like. So if we talk first about lead generation, how do you automate your lead generation? Well, how are you currently getting leads? Some people have a Facebook group, some people have like a free guide, some people might be running a weekly, a monthly, or a quarterly masterclass. Say you're the masterclass person. A lot of the people that I've seen in my experience, they actually just run masterclasses through Facebook, right? They just set up a Facebook event. Sometimes they get a ton of people that come, and that's great. But the problem is, once that Facebook event is done, yes, you may be able to see people that have registered, but then, as we all know, you're actually capped out as to how many people you can actually contact and communicate with every single day. So those leads aren't your real leads. Yes, they registered for your event, but you have no way outside of Facebook to communicate with them. You can't send them an email. You can't call them on their phone because you don't have their phone number. You really can only communicate with them via Facebook. And if Facebook decides that they want to ban you, block you, or temporarily stop your access for that day, you cannot do anything. So how do you automate your lead gen? Well, what we always recommend is have some sort of free guide, and that exists on like a landing page. Have a landing page, have a free guide. Even if you're doing your masterclass still, have the registration on a page, on a landing page. That way people have to fill out the information, and then that information then goes into your CRM, right? And that's the biggest thing. Some people, I know when I first started my first business, we actually had a website and then we had a tool called Zapier. And what that would do is it would connect. So we had our first website built on ClickFunnels. Then I would have a tool called Zapier. It would connect to ClickFunnels, and then I would send that information once we receive it into a Google Sheet. So that's basically how we ran our entire business. Every time someone opted in, we would get that information every single time onto a Google Sheet. The challenge with that, of course, is it becomes very costly because you're basically paying for two tools that some tools actually can do it all under one. And also, if you're not on top of it, sometimes you can either run out of credits with Zapier or something might break, and then all of a sudden you have no idea, but your leads have actually stopped populating into your Google Sheets, and you had no idea unless you go check that manually, right? So there's a lot of time and effort that goes into it. But at a high level, that's how you can start to automate your lead generation. So even in your content that you post, if you say, hey, comment this word and I'll send you this link, and every document, every free guide, every resource that you send them, it requires their name, email address, phone number, even optional if you'd like. Then at that point, you have that lead. Now they're in your system, right? Now you can keep track of them. You can see when they opted in. You can see all their progress and everything that they're doing, and they won't slip through the cracks, because if you're anything like me with my last business, I've had people where, because we talk to so many people every single day, even a week goes by and I completely forgot that this person was like warm, they were really on the fence, and I just had to, continue nurturing that conversation. But then other people come up, there's other things that are going on, and you completely forget. And then sometimes a couple of weeks, if you're lucky, sometimes even months go by, and you realize that you actually had someone that was so close to purchasing, you dropped the ball, they end up going somewhere else, right? And I'm sure if you haven't experienced that, yeah, I don't hope you do, because it doesn't feel great, but of course it is part of business. So first thing is automating your lead capture with some sort of lead magnet landing page, ultimately with an automation that will track it in your CRM. Next thing is your appointment setting, right? So very similar. You still want to have your calendar application. Now, if you're using Calendly, TidyCal, Acuity, Honeybook, any one of these, most of those, they may just be like Calendly, for example. I know a lot of people, a lot of coaches are using Calendly. Calendly is great, but it's just a tool that keeps track of that information there. And again, you want more booking links, you have to pay extra. If you want to take that information, export it into your team Slack channel or even into a Google Sheet again, then you have to then pay for Zapier. Zapier is a great tool, but again, it's very costly depending on how many things you're automating. Now you see here, you build a website and you have a calendar, that's 2 times. So every time that thing runs, it's basically doing it 3 to 4 times every single time it runs, right? Because it has to transfer the information from the landing page to Zapier, and then Zapier is going to then send it to Google Sheets. So it's 2 processes every single time you want to do something. So it starts to add up. With that said, though, that is how some people are currently running your business. So they could have Calendly as the free version. Then they have Zapier to then take that information and then put it into a Google Sheet. Really helpful, right? Because you're at least being able to see the information without having to log into Calendly all the time. But that is another thing. So making sure that you have a tool like Zapier to then bring it somewhere like a Google Sheet, or even if you have a different CRM, things like that, you want to make sure that you can automate that process. So having your calendar link, if you don't have a calendar link, I would definitely recommend it. There's a bunch of free ones on the platform in the industry. So yeah, I would definitely recommend setting that up, making sure your questions make sense, and then you have some sort of process to then pull that information over into a tracking sheet rather than having to manually go and follow up. Because again, without the automation of pulling their information over to even something like a Google Sheet, you may have no idea of knowing that you even booked that call. Because again, things happen pretty quick in the online coaching industry. You could have a call with someone and then 3 months go by and you completely forget that you even had a call with them unless you look in the DM conversation or wherever you found them at the beginning, right? So having a process where you can keep that up to date is so helpful. The next thing there is the sales call. Same thing, right? Like you want to be able to track who has come. This all kind of wraps around, having a CRM, right? So having even just a Google Sheet, like depending on where you are in your business, even having a Google Sheet might be a little bit better in terms of tracking than what a lot of people are doing. They don't really have a tracking process. So even having a Google Sheet where every sales call, again, using Zapier, goes into the Google Sheet where it's the sales calls, and you can manually update what has happened in that call, when you should follow up with them, if they closed, if they didn't close, and keeping track of all that stuff is just so important. Yes, that is manual. How is this automating it? Well, you want to automate it by automatically bringing that information from Zoom, from Calendly to the Google Sheet. So even just a small thing like that, it actually does save a lot of time, because again, imagine, and I've been there, you have 6 sales calls in one day, back to back. You're not going to be able to remember all of that, or even 8-10 sales calls in a day. You're not going to remember what was said, because there's so many conversations, there's so many people you're talking to. So to have this call and then just immediately jump off this call, talk to another person, and then manually go back and have to find that person's information, remember what you talked about, put the notes down somewhere, and then you lose the notes, so you start somewhere else fresh the next day. It's incredible how many people are just kind of operating their business this way. But you got to start somewhere, and we get that. But the idea here is, even if you can just have a Zapier tool or make.com, that's another free tool that a lot of people are using to automate a lot of these processes. If you do something like that, at least when you have the call, the information just goes over, so that at the end of the call, rather than spending 10 minutes trying to get their information, put in their name, their email address, all the information, what happened on the sales call, all that stuff just gets populated for you, and then you can just go ahead and fill out what happened on that call. So really helpful stuff. In terms of your content creation, that's the next thing. So content creation, having a platform where you can schedule your content so you can create it in advance is really helpful. A lot of coaches that I know, they're either only on Facebook, Instagram, sometimes they're on YouTube, TikTok, but we already know that it takes so much energy to have to go and post something manually on TikTok, then to have to take it, revamp it for YouTube, and then to take it and then retweak it again for the Instagram and the Facebook. It's so time consuming, right? So having a platform as a whole that can post to every single one of those platforms is so helpful. There are some platforms out there, some social media scheduling platforms out there, where you can actually post and schedule your content, reels, stories, all of that stuff, track your analytics and things like that as well. So we highly recommend being able to do that, have a tool, a platform like that, because it's going to be really helpful when it comes to streamlining that process. Streamline, I think, is the easiest and the best way to put it, because that's all you're really trying to do. You're trying to be more efficient with it, rather than what I used to do. And when I was creating content, sometimes, the ideas don't flow, especially when you have clients and a sales call that day, and you have employees that are messaging you for support. It's sometimes really hard to be in that mindset of just, what can I do to create value and give back today, when you have so many other things that are going on, right? So being able to maybe spend a couple of days and then create the content for a month, schedule it, track analytics, see what's working, all those things, it's going to really free up a lot of your time. And then, of course, with the client success. Within client success, I still take onboarding into that, bracket, because onboarding, right, processing the payment, collecting the signatures, getting them access to the course in the community area, and even streamlining, how they get support. Making sure that there's a weekly group call that they come to, or, however many times that you're running your group calls, making sure that there's a ticket or a support system that they know how to use when they need support. A lot of people are still just saying, hey, if you need help, just text me. But I know that although we want to be available and make sure that, they are getting success, we also understand it's a business. And when I didn't set the right expectations in my last business, I had people, at all different stages, because we had clients all over the world. I had people messaging me at 7 a.m. and I had people messaging me at 10 p.m. asking to jump on calls and do all that. So streamline that process, have more of a, this is, my working hours, this is how you're supposed to receive support, this is when you come to the group calls. Even just streamlining that process can save you a lot of time and energy, especially as you grow and scale. So depending on where you are in your business, you can see there's so many different avenues and different areas. You don't need to do everything all at once. Just figure out where you're spending the most time and then implement something so that way you can start getting your time back. Because once you start getting your time back, it starts to compound everything else that you do until you get to a point where your entire business is basically running almost on its own. You can have people opting into your free guides, your master classes, while you're creating content that's scheduled for the next 2 weeks, and then your clients are doing well, and then everything feels good. You finally have that peace of mind and you are moving in the right direction. So if you found this helpful, please feel free to subscribe. We'll be doing content like this pretty often. We also have a blog, so go check that out if you haven't seen it. And if you want to learn more about platforms and things like that, we actually have a software specifically designed for online coaches. You can find that out down below as well. Thanks so much. We'll see you on the next one.